Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star with us as Indiana's boys high school basketball tournament has begun. Not only has it started, you got some of the best teams in the state playing already. As number 1 Fishers, number 2 Noblesville were already out and about and in action. Anything shocking happen up to this point? It's been early. It's early. Only been one night of games.
Yeah, one night, so there hasn't been, we don't have a full, we'll get some more games tonight. I was out at Noblesville last night, and those games weren't, they weren't thrilling necessarily. I mean, the atmosphere was great. The kind of everybody was looking forward to that. Certainly the Fishers Carmel game, because Carmel had beat Fishers, the only team to do it this year. And that was the second game last night. So you could kind of feel Noblesville kind of put the finishing touches on Zionsville. They were up comfortably, ended up winning by 18. And, you could kind of feel as that Fishers Carmel game was about to start. I mean, the energy was through the roof. And, Fishers came out and just laid it on them. It was 16-2, in the first 5 minutes. And then Carmel was playing from behind. They got it down to 8 a couple times in the fourth. In the third, but couldn't get over the hump. Just a lot to come back from that, against a team that's really good. So yeah, I was impressed. Fishers came out ready to go, and that sets up Friday night, which should be awesome. They have Noblesville and Westfield will play each other, and Fishers and HSE, which that's obviously a huge rivalry between those two teams. And HSE has been good this year. That's a team that's probably flown under the radar slightly, but they're 15-9, and they played Fishers to a 7-point game back in December. There won't be any fear factor, for them playing Fishers. So that sets up as a really, fun atmosphere. Westfield Noblesville games first. So that place will be jumping at 6:00, and then, Fishers HSE in the second game. So that'll be a wild night. But yeah, I would say, there were the Mount Vernon New Pal game. Well, I would say that was slightly surprising to me. It was one of those weird games where Mount Vernon had really beat New Pal handily just last week. But New Pal was without Ben Slagley, one of their best players there, and definitely their best big player. And he came back and played well last night, and they ended up beating Mount Vernon 58-56. And that's that sectional with Braylon Mullins from Greenfield's in that one. They play Anderson. And, it's a very wide open sectional. Richmond's having a really good season. They're in that group. And, I actually picked Mount Vernon to win it slightly. I didn't feel super confident about that, but they had been playing really well. They got Luke Ertl back, the sophomore guard from he'd been injured. So he played about 5 or 6 games at the end. So Mount Vernon goes down. So that was a big, maybe a slight surprise, definitely a big game. I was a little surprised Franklin Central got beat. They had got off to a really good start this year and played in the Marion County championship game. Round Collie beat them 57-46 last night at Southport in Section 11. So Round Collie moves on. They'll play Decatur, and then Ben Davis is on the other side of that bracket. So they're fairly heavy favorite, although they play Pike tonight. Pike's had a bad season to a large extent, but they do have some talent, and they that's a rivalry game, so that one could be interesting. Chesterton beating Portage, that was a big game. I kind of had my eye on that one, watched a little bit online. That's a game I thought could have gone either way. Chesterton, Tyler Parrish, really good player, Justin Sims, a couple of guys who could be Indian All-Star types. But there wasn't. I didn't sense. Warren beating Lawrence Central. That was kind of a toss-up game. Warren had to come back in that one. Brownsburg beating Plainfield. That again, Brownsburg I think was probably slightly. You would pick them, but Plainfield a good team. But yeah, I don't know that there was any necessarily huge upsets last night. At least from what I could tell as I was looking through it.
And with the lack of seeding, are there any big time semifinal games that are coming up? Either they wouldn't be tonight, obviously, since last night was the first play. So either tomorrow night or set up for Friday already.
Yeah, I mean, Friday obviously you'll have 2 versus 3, which is Noblesville and Westfield, which that'll be an outstanding game and definitely a toss-up game. I covered that game the first time, and Westfield won on Noblesville's home court. And, I felt like Noblesville left a lot on the table that game. They missed a lot of, paint shots, and that's, Nick Book for Westfield's the reason for that, because he's, big guy inside. But I feel like Noblesville, has been really good all year. When they're at their best, I think they might be right up there with Fishers and certainly Lawrence North, which, when they're at their best, they might be the best team, but they haven't kind of played that way here recently. But yeah, so that'll be a huge one on Friday. And then, of course, tonight you still have some really good ones. I think speaking of Lawrence North, and Anderson Greenfield Central, they mentioning Greenfield Central, the Anderson Greenfield tonight, that should be an outstanding game. And Anderson's knocked them out the last 2 years. So this is kind of a chance for Greenfield to, get back at them. And I know Anderson, they really drive the ball. Damian King, a slasher type player, tough matchup. But Greenfield plays zone, so I don't know. Anderson's probably going to have to make some outside shots or get out in transition. So that's a really interesting matchup, I think, just from that standpoint of strength versus strength. They're going to have to Anderson, I think, try to force some turnovers in that game, make it a little bit more up tempo. And then at Lawrence North tonight, sectional 10, Attucks plays Tech, and then North Central plays Lawrence North. So those two old rivals go at each other. So that'll be, I think, an interesting game too. Lawrence North, put it on North Central the first time by, I think, 20, and then that was in the county. And then they came back, played the next week, and North Central almost beat them. It was a 2-point game last time they met. So that'll be a good one tonight over at LN, the refurbished LN gym over there. So that one should be good. There's some other ones out there, certainly in the lower classes too. But yeah, there's a lot of games tonight. I think a lot of games that, last night maybe more of a run-of-the-mill night, and then tonight you'll have, Heritage Hills too. I didn't mention them in 3A. They play Princeton, another game where they just beat Princeton last week by
very dangerous.
Yeah, that's tough. It's at Princeton, so you go down there and play in the sectional. That Princeton's kind of a younger team, but definitely a team. Lamar Brown's done a good job kind of getting that program turned around. So that'll be one to definitely keep an eye on. I'll be trying to pull up the stream on that for sure if they have it. But yeah, there's Wapahani Lapel. That's another good one tonight out at Alexandria. This is a Wapahani team, I think, that's ready to make a run. But Lapel has been, they beat Tipton last week. Tipton was ranked number 1 in 2A, and they've been on the rise here. So that one could be interesting. I would think Wapahani would win, but again, things get weird this time of year. So yeah, those are some of the ones tonight. I think, and then obviously some games are set already for Friday, but I haven't even looked ahead to Friday, Jim. I'm one day at a time. I'm keeping it one.
Trust me, I hear you, brother. I hear you. I can only imagine how many games you have to manage between now and then. You mentioned Heritage Hills at Princeton with Trent Sisley, and he wants to, even though this is his junior year, wants to go as far as he can. He doesn't, not a slight against the rest of his teammates, but he doesn't have a lot around him. Usually when you see a team that has someone of that caliber, they have another player or two, and boy, Coach Nate doesn't have a lot to work with besides Trent.
Yeah, it sort of shows itself when they play, some of the better teams. I think, you can kind of get away with it to a certain extent, when you're playing maybe schools that are more your size, or, maybe not, some of the teams you see, and they do play in a good conference. So, they're getting tested. A lot of those teams are, that sectional this year has got some really good teams in it. They lost to Southridge a couple weeks ago. That's always a tough team. Princeton, like I said, is on the rise. But, when they play in some of these games where they come up and play, in some of the showcase games and things like that, it's just you can kind of see some of those deficiencies that you mentioned. I'm always careful, like high school kids, you don't want to rip them or anything, but it definitely shows up the talent level and some of those things show themselves when Heritage Hills plays in some of these showcase games. But Sicily does make up for a lot of that, and he obviously draws a lot of attention. So if you can find some other points from open threes and guys coming off to guard him and making him a priority, he is a good passer too. So I know he's looking to get people involved. It's just a matter of how much they can help him on a given night. But I still think I like them to, they'll probably have to play Southridge again if they can get to the championship game. And they've got a pretty tough road. They, like I said, have to beat Princeton. Probably, Washington's been playing a lot better, so they could see the Hatchets on Friday night, and that could be a tough game too. But then, beating Southridge again, they didn't do it last time they played, so that could be a tough matchup for them in the championship game. But I know they're only worried about trying to get through tonight, and it's always fun, from a general fan standpoint. If Sicily does advance, I think that would generate some interest, obviously, and people just, we know who this guy is, and it'd be fun to see him play in the next round. But of course, those teams playing him in the sectional don't care about that, so they're trying to knock him out here this week.
Yeah, and what makes it bad for teams like Heritage Hills when you have the one guy is they generally have to play out of position. Trent Sicily is a wing, is what his natural position is, probably a 3, maybe a 4, I don't know, but that's what he'll play in college. But now, hell, he's playing the center spot a lot of the times and just gets pounded, double teamed, and it makes it difficult for teams like that.
Yeah, and you've seen a few things this season where he's been kind of knocked around a little bit, and some scary stuff. At least one that I saw that looked like a little bit dirty, but so you're dealing with a lot of that. Teams that just they know who you are and they want to knock down the king, so to speak. So it is tough. I've seen that. Obviously there's a lot of high school kids that have kind of had the target on their back like he has, and every scouting report is built around you, and especially in his case where, like you said, I mean, he didn't have a lot of D1 guys around him or anything like that. So his role is I'll really be curious, once he gets to college, what type of role I'm sure in some ways it'll be a little bit freeing for him, I think, to play like he kind of does like for AAU and things like that, because you just have better players around you. So I will I really like Trent's game. He works his butt off. I mean, that's one thing watching him play. I mean, he just works and works, and that's maybe the best compliment you can give to him is he's always working.
The Taylor Titans against the Tipton Tornadoes tonight. They're not really the Tornadoes. I don't know what they really are, but
they're the Blue Devils.
Blue Devils. I always call them the Tornadoes just out of respect for our good friend Derek Elston, the original Tipton Tornado, which he may not even have been the original. Who knows?
Well, that's he was a tornado. I remember covering them when they were playing Deshaun Thomas for Lures in the I can't remember what round of the tournament that was, but Tipton's back. They're really good again, and they're a team I think that could make a serious run. I think in that sectional, they're pretty clearly the favorite. Tipton plays Eastern on Friday night, so yeah, Taylor, I think they should probably. They play Blackford tonight. That could be an interesting game, but I like that Tipton team. They really shoot it from 3. They play up tempo style, and Cliff Hawkins is their coach. He's been a lot of places. He coached at DeKalb at one time with Luke Recker, and then went to Center Grove for a while. So he's been around the block a few times and got a really good team this year.